Picture this. You walk into a home where every surface is covered with objects. Books stacked on chairs, papers scattered across tables, clothes draped over furniture, dishes piled in the sink. The air feels heavy, almost suffocating. You can barely move without bumping into something. Your eyes dart from one pile to another, unable to find a place to rest. This is what happens when physical space becomes overwhelmed with too much stuff. Now imagine that same feeling, but inside your mind. Thoughts tumbling over each other like clothes in an overstuffed closet, worries stacked high like unopened mail, regrets gathering dust in forgotten corners, old conversations replaying like broken records. This is mental clutter. And just like a cluttered home, it makes it nearly impossible to find what you're looking for when you need it most. What if I told you that your mind, like any living space, could be transformed? What if the chaos could give way to calm, the noise to silence, the overwhelm to peace? This is the art of mental minimalism, and it begins with a simple recognition: we are the curators of our own inner world. Think about the last time you tried to fall asleep, only to find your mind racing through tomorrow's tasks, last week's mistakes, or next month's uncertainties. Or perhaps you've sat down to enjoy a quiet moment, only to discover that your thoughts were anywhere but present. These experiences aren't failures or weaknesses. They're simply signs that our mental space has become cluttered, filled with more than it can comfortably hold. Mental clutter accumulates in ways we rarely notice. It starts small, like that first piece of junk mail we set aside instead of throwing away, a worry about a conversation at work, a regret about something we said years ago, a fear about something that might happen next week. Each thought seems manageable on its own, but over time, they pile up. We carry the weight of every unfinished mental task, every unresolved emotion, every what-if scenario our imagination can conjure. Consider how we collect other people's opinions like souvenirs from places we've never been. We hold on to criticism from someone who barely knows us. We replay compliments from years past, trying to extract every drop of validation. We store away judgments and comparisons, creating entire museums of other people's thoughts about our lives. Is this really what we want filling our mental space? The ancient philosophers understood something profound about the human condition. They recognized that suffering often comes not from what happens to us, but from how much mental real estate we give to things beyond our control. Marcus Aurelius, writing in his personal journal that would become known as Meditations, reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This isn't just philosophical poetry. It's a practical truth about how we can begin to declutter our inner world. When we truly understand what lies within our control and what doesn't, we can start to let go of the mental furniture that serves no purpose in our lives. Epictetus, who knew something about hardship, having lived as a slave before becoming one of history's great teachers, offered this wisdom. Wealth consists in not having great possessions, but in having few wants. What if we applied this same principle to our thoughts and emotions? What if mental wealth came not from having more thoughts, but from wanting fewer of them to define our peace? The Stoics weren't advocating for emptiness or indifference. They were pointing toward a kind of mental minimalism where we keep only what serves us, what brings us closer to wisdom, virtue, and tranquility. They understood that a mind filled with unnecessary worries is like a garden choked with weeds, where nothing beautiful can grow. If you found value in these reflections, I'd love for you to join our growing community of thoughtful souls who are walking this path together. Consider subscribing to this channel so you won't miss future explorations into philosophy, mindfulness, and the art of living well. There's something beautiful about knowing we're not alone in this journey toward greater peace and understanding. Seneca wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." This captures the essence of mental decluttering perfectly. To make space for peace, we must be willing to let go of chaos. To invite in clarity, we must release confusion. To welcome joy, we must stop hoarding our sorrows. So how do we begin this process of mental minimalism? How do we transform our inner landscape from cluttered chaos to spacious serenity? The first step is recognition, like walking through that cluttered house with fresh eyes. We must become aware of what we're carrying. This isn't about judgment or criticism. It's about gentle observation. What thoughts do you return to most often? What worries have taken up permanent residence in your mind? What regrets have you been storing like old newspapers you'll never read again? My mind is my home, and I choose what lives here. This simple truth becomes our foundation. Just as we wouldn't let strangers rearrange our furniture or fill our closets with their belongings, we don't have to let every passing thought or emotion make itself at home in our consciousness. The second step is selection, the art of choosing what deserves our mental energy. Imagine you're moving to a smaller, more beautiful home. You can't take everything with you, so you must decide what truly matters. Which thoughts serve your growth? Which emotions guide you toward wisdom? Which memories bring you joy or teach you valuable lessons? This process requires what the Stoics called the discipline of desire. We learn to want less, not because we're depriving ourselves, but because we're choosing quality over quantity. A mind focused on a few important things is far more powerful than one scattered across 1,000 trivial concerns. The third step is release, perhaps the most challenging but also the most liberating. This is where we practice letting go, not through force or suppression, but through gentle acceptance. Like opening our hands to let a bird fly free, we allow unnecessary thoughts and emotions to move through us without clinging to them. I release the weight of what I cannot control. This becomes not just a statement, but a practice, a way of moving through the world with lighter steps and clearer vision. Mindfulness offers us a beautiful complement to Stoic wisdom. Where Stoicism teaches us what to think about, mindfulness teaches us how to relate to our thoughts. It's the difference between organizing our mental closet and learning to observe our thoughts without being overwhelmed by them. Picture your thoughts as leaves floating down a gentle river. Some leaves are beautiful, others are withered. Some are large, others small. In a cluttered mind, we try to grab every leaf, to examine it, to keep it, or worry about it. But what if we simply sat by the riverbank and watched them pass? What if we let the current carry away what doesn't serve us? This isn't about becoming emotionless or disconnected. It's about developing a different relationship with our inner experience. We can acknowledge a worry without letting it set up camp in our consciousness. We can feel sadness without building it a permanent home. We can experience joy without desperately trying to make it stay forever. The practice of presence naturally dissolves mental hoarding. When we're fully here, fully now, there's no room for the endless replay of past events or the anxious rehearsal of future scenarios. The present moment is spacious enough to hold whatever arises, but it doesn't accumulate clutter the way our thinking mind does. Consider how different your day feels when you're truly present versus when you're mentally elsewhere. When you're present while washing dishes, the warm water and soap bubbles become a meditation. When you're mentally elsewhere, even the most beautiful sunset becomes background noise to your internal chatter. Peace is worth more than possession. This applies not just to material things but to our mental collections as well. The peace that comes from a clear mind is worth more than the false security of holding on to every thought and emotion that passes through our awareness. Before we embrace mental minimalism, life often feels like we're constantly rearranging deck chairs on a sinking ship. We try to organize our worries, prioritize our anxieties, and manage our mental chaos, but we never address the fundamental issue. We're carrying too much. We wake up tired because our minds never truly rest. We feel overwhelmed by simple decisions because our mental bandwidth is already maxed out. We struggle to enjoy good moments because we're simultaneously processing 17 other things. We feel disconnected from others because we're too busy managing our internal noise to be fully present with them. This isn't a character flaw or a sign of weakness. It's simply what happens when we try to live in a cluttered mental space. Just as a cluttered home makes it hard to relax and enjoy our surroundings, a cluttered mind makes it difficult to experience peace and joy. But imagine a different way of being. Picture waking up with a clear mind, like walking into a clean, organized home where everything has its place. Your thoughts are focused and purposeful, rather than scattered and reactive. You can sit in silence without feeling restless, because your mind isn't constantly generating noise to fill the space. When challenges arise, you meet them with clarity rather than adding them to an already overwhelming pile of concerns. You can be fully present with loved ones because you're not simultaneously processing a dozen other mental tasks. You make decisions more easily because you're not carrying the weight of every possible outcome. This transformation doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't require perfection. It's more like tending a garden than completing a project. Some days the weeds grow back, and that's okay. The practice is in the gentle, consistent returning to what matters, the patient cultivation of mental space. You begin to notice that happiness isn't something you need to chase or acquire. It's something that naturally emerges when you stop filling your mind with things that block it. Joy isn't a rare visitor that you must desperately try to keep around. It's a natural state that reveals itself when you clear away the mental debris. Your relationships deepen because you can offer others your full presence rather than a distracted version of yourself. Your work becomes more fulfilling because you can focus completely on what you're doing rather than splitting your attention across multiple mental tasks. Even simple pleasures like a cup of tea or a walk in nature become richer because you're actually there to experience them. This is the gift of mental minimalism, not emptiness, but spaciousness, not indifference, but clarity, not detachment, but the freedom to engage fully with what truly matters. As we near the end of our reflection together, I want to invite you to be part of this ongoing journey of growth and discovery. If these ideas resonate with you, consider joining our community by subscribing and sharing your own insights in the comments. There's something powerful about walking this path of mindfulness and philosophical living alongside others who understand its value. Together, we can support each other in creating more peaceful, intentional lives. The ancient Stoics spoke of the view from above, imagining themselves looking down at their lives from a great height. From this perspective, so many of our daily concerns appear small and temporary. The argument that consumed our thoughts for days, the embarrassment that felt so significant, the worry that kept us awake at night. From above, they're like tiny specks in the vast landscape of existence. This isn't meant to diminish the reality of our experiences, but to help us see them in proper proportion. When we declutter our minds, we naturally develop this broader perspective. We can hold our immediate concerns lightly while staying connected to what truly matters in the long arc of our lives. Mental minimalism is ultimately about freedom. The freedom to choose our thoughts rather than being chosen by them. The freedom to respond rather than react. The freedom to be present rather than lost in mental time travel. It's about recognizing that our minds, like our homes, are meant to be sanctuaries, not storage units. In a world that profits from our distraction, that feeds on our anxiety, that thrives on our mental clutter, choosing minimalism is a radical act. It's a declaration that our peace matters more than our productivity, that our presence is more valuable than our possessions, that our clarity is worth more than our collections of thoughts and emotions. As you move forward from this moment, carry with you the understanding that you are the curator of your own consciousness. You have the power to decide what thoughts deserve your attention, what emotions deserve your energy, what concerns deserve your time. You can choose to live in the spaciousness of a clear mind, rather than the chaos of mental clutter. The path of mental minimalism isn't about reaching a destination where your mind is permanently clear and peaceful. It's about developing a relationship with your thoughts and emotions that serves your highest good. It's about creating space for what matters most and gently releasing what doesn't serve your journey toward wisdom, peace, and authentic joy. In the end, perhaps the greatest gift we can give ourselves is the recognition that we don't need to carry everything. We don't need to solve every problem, remember every slight, or prepare for every possible future. We can travel light through this life, carrying only what serves love, wisdom, and peace. In this lightness, we find not emptiness, but the fullness of a life lived with intention, presence, and grace.